Okay, so this is Maya here. Now I'll just quickly walk you through basic interface and moving around, just what we need for animation. This is not a Maya tutorial, it's an animation in Maya tutorials, so there's other tutorials out there if you are completely new to Maya and need to learn the basics. So first of all, the viewports here. If I hold down Alt key and left mouse button, I can move around like this. Alt key middle mouse button, I can pan, and Alt key right mouse button, I can zoom in, or the mouse wheel I can zoom in and out. Okay, so again, Alt left, Alt middle, and Alt right, or the mouse wheel. Okay, so there's not a whole lot that you need to know. We're not going to be diving into all of this stuff up here because we're just focused on the character animation part. Okay, so you can either, if you click over here, this is your different menu sets. It doesn't matter which one you're in. Okay, like I said, we're not really going to be using any of the stuff up here anyway, so don't worry too much about that. Over here we have the move tool, rotate tool, and the scale tool, and you can see it's got that little beside the name there, it's got the letter on the keyboard that you can use the shortcut for, which of course is W, E, and R. Okay, simple. Alright, the other thing we're going to go through really quickly is our preferences. So if we go down here, this little menu thing here is animation preferences. Click on that, and what we want to do is we want to make sure we're in timeline. So on the side here, scroll all the way down to settings, timeline, and then we're going to put the playback speed to real time. Some animators animate it with play every frame, so they can see every single frame of the animation, and that's fine. I like to see things in real time though, so that's why I use that. And then come all the way back up to animation, and we want to set the default in tangents and the default out tangents. Default in tangents will be flat, and the default out tangents will be stepped. Okay, and I will show you why. So the first exercise we're going to do is we're going to do a bouncing ball. Okay, the reason we're doing a bouncing ball is because I need to talk about some technical things as far as animation goes, and some technical things as far as animating in 3D space and in 3D goes. So first thing I do is I'm just going to click on polygons over here and click on create a polygon sphere. So I've got interactive creation on. So if you get that, just come up to create, go down here and turn off interactive creation. Then click on that sphere again, and there we go. Scale that guy up. Now, let's get rid of our, actually what we'll do, you can see we can't really see what's going on here, so I'm going to come up here, smooth shade all, click on that, and now we can see this sphere. So I'm just going to move this guy up to the grid. Now I want to see this from a different view, so I want to see this from an orthographic view. So I'm going to hold down the spacebar, left click, and I'm going to drag down to where it says front view. Okay, so again, if I want to go back, so I'm hold down spacebar, left click, and I'm going to go up to perspective view. Spacebar, left click. Now you can go to any of these views, okay, and we will use a couple of them throughout the course. Now again, this is not a basics DVD, so if you aren't quite sure what's going on, you may need to look into getting a basics course so you can learn Maya. Although if you know, there are a lot of tutorials on YouTube and throughout the internet that will teach you all the basics, so you don't really need to go out, just do some research, Google, and you can learn all you need to know. Alright, so I've moved that up here, so we've got the ground. Then I'm going to create a plane, polygon plane, scale that guy up as well. That's just so that we have a floor for the ball. Okay, then I'm going to go and turn off my grid, which is here, grid, turn that guy off, don't need him. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I want this zeroed out, so I'm going to come up here, modify, freeze transformations, done. Actually, the other thing I want to do is I want to move the pivot of the ball down to the bottom. So I'm on the move tool, hold down D for the pivot, then V to snap, and I'm going to drag it down to the bottom of the sphere. Just go to the front view, make sure that's at the bottom. Yes, it is. Okay, that's just going to make it a lot easier for us in a minute when we're animating. Now I don't want to touch the ground here, so I'm going to select the plane, come over to the layers, and this one here with the ball says create a new layer and assign selected object. So I'm going to click on that, and I'll talk more about this quickly later, but for now I'm just going to hit that twice, the empty square twice, until the R comes up. So now we can't select it. Okay, so I was going to talk about the animation preferences. So here, the flat in and stepped out. So if I've got the ball here and I set a keyframe, so there's a couple of ways to set a keyframe here. The first one is we can select one of these or all of these and right click, go to key selected. Just going to undo that. We can just select one and go key all. That'll key all of them. The other thing we can do is we can make sure we're on a frame that we want to be on, and then just hit the S key on the keyboard, and that will key them all. The next thing we want to do is we want to go down here, and I know, if you're new to this will probably be a lot of information, so just watch it a couple of times, go slow, feel free to pause it and follow along with me. Come down here, turn on this little key, it'll toggle auto keyframe. So all that means is if I go to another frame and drag this across, it will automatically put a keyframe there. Okay? So that's the other thing I should probably mention, is this is the timeline down here. So this is where we're going to be setting our keyframes and stuff like that. You can adjust how many frames you have here by, this is how many frames are showing. If you go over here, you can see this is my the end of the timeline. So this is the max amount of keyframes I have, or max amount of frames I have, and I can set that to, whatever I want. Okay. And this is how many frames are showing. So set that to 10. Only those 10 are showing. Okay. So we just made this little animation. I might just come up here, so ball moves across there. I'll just come up here and put another one, ball moves up in the air, okay? So over here, these control our timeline. So if I click this first one here, and if you hover over it, it'll give you a little tooltip, so you know what's going on. That'll take me back to the start. So if I hit play, and of course when it gets to the end here, it's going to loop through and start again. But you can see that's very blocky. You can't see, there's no in-betweens at all at the minute. Okay? So if I get rid of these keyframes, I'll talk you through how to do that in a minute, but for now, and if I go back to my animation preferences, and I put this on the default, so let's go restore default. It's auto tangent for both of those, okay? What that's going to do, if I go to number 10 again, set that keyframe here. Oh, sorry, got to make sure I turn that key back on because I reset my settings. And up to 20. And then go back to the start. What's going to happen is it's going to interpolate the in-between frames. It's going to say, okay, it's here and then it's here. So we need to fill these frames in. So that's probably a bit quick. Let's just go to 50. So because that animation is a bit quick, you can't really see what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'll talk you through this. So I want to move this keyframe over to the side. So the easiest way of doing it, well, there's two different ways of doing it. And I'll talk about these again later, but the first way is if I hold down the shift key and click on this one, and you can see this comes up here, and I click on one of the two arrows on the inside, I can drag it across and click out. I'm just going to undo that. The other way of doing it is the dope sheet, which I don't really want to get into just yet, so I will talk about that later. So I'm just going to move that up here, hold down shift, click, and move this over here. And I'm going to, so again, it's not, does not seem to have put okay, so if we change this to, if we restore this to defaults, okay, let's click save. Now let's do these keyframes again. So let's set a key here. Let's go to 10, drag it across. Oh, make sure you click this back on. Because I reset the defaults, that's not on by default. So I just have to click it back on again. And then drag it across. And let's go to 20, drag it up. Okay, now if I go back to start and I play it through, you can see it's added the in-betweens there. Before there was nothing in between the keyframes, and now it's gone, okay, this is here, this one's here, and it's added all the frames in between that. Which is okay, and a lot of animators work like that, but I find it easier to, and probably a lot easier when you're first starting out, if you don't worry about the in-betweens and you just worry about blocking in the keyframes. So I'm going to undo these keyframes, and then I'm going to come up here and change my preferences back, flat and stepped, save it. Okay, so now we're going to get into the actual bouncing ball.